pull today and we pull what we got to pull today, you have $11 in your pocket.
This scene is not taking place in the Congo. It has nothing to do with Johannesburg or Cape Town. It is not Nyasaland or Nigeria. This is Florida. These are citizens of the United States, 1960. They are the migrants, workers in the sweatshops of the soil, the harvest of shame.
Now, Edward R. Murrow.
This is CBS Reports, Harvest of Shame. It has to do with the men, women, and children who harvest the crops in this country of ours, the best-fed nation on earth. These are the forgotten people, the underprotected, the undereducated, the underclothed, the underfed.
Edward R. Murrow. I like to think of myself as being relatively unimpressible. I really don't have too many heroes, but Edward R. Murrow is certainly one of them. It's not only what he did, but when he did it. He was really a courageous guy, and he's the model for all of us. It's been more than 13 years since Murrow did Harvest of Shame, and he told the story of the plight of the migrant workers probably more eloquently than anyone else ever could. 13 years is a long time. Since then, there have been other fine documentaries on the same subject. Public TV did one called What Harvest for the Reaper, for example. And then Chet Huntley did an NBC white paper on the same subject. He went to the same Florida town that Murrow had visited in 1960. And there have been others. What's new? Unfortunately, not very much. And that's the continuing tragedy and the reason for this update of Migrants. Dirt cheap.
Put your hand to the handle of my hoe. Let me make another step. Let me go another road. Even though I'm tired, gotta try to make $1 for my wife and kids living over in the hollow.
While migrants have been a controversial topic for a long time, the statistics are undisputed. The life expectancy for one of the workers, according to the U.S. Senate Subcommittee on Migratory Labor, is 49 years. And the infant and maternal mortality rate is 125% higher than the national average. Because migrants are so transient, employers rarely go through the formality of records keeping. That means the workers don't qualify for Social Security benefits. And Gene Washington is an example of what happens when they get old or unable to work. A migrant all his life, he started to lose his eyesight a month ago.
What are you going to do if your eyes do bum out on you?
Well, that's a question. I don't know.
You think the farmer will take care of you?
No, I know that.
You know he's not gonna?
Yes.
So what do you do? I mean, what happens?
I don't know. I'll have to get some help from somewhere.
Well, how do you feel about it after spending your life in the fields now to come to this with really nothing in your pocket and not being able to work anymore?
That's right. It's a bad feeling. In fact, when you get where you're not able to work, you're out.
There's a statistic that's perhaps the most bitter irony of all. The migrant works 5, 6, or 7 days a week, and he earns less than the city of New York gives its average welfare recipient. All the unhappy statistics about the world of the migrant somehow become less important next to this one. It's right off the pages of Charles Dickens. Children comprise fully 25% of the total migratory workforce. Perhaps even more shocking is the fact that there is no federal child labor law. Whatever regulation there is left up to the individual states. And in New Jersey, the law reads as if it were drafted by farmers suffering from a severe shortage of cheap labor. When school's not in session in New Jersey, anyone over 12 years old is allowed to work on a farm up to 60 hours, 6 days a week. On the farms of that state, I found repeated violations of even this inadequate law, with children as young as 8 years old working 7 days a week.
8 years old? How old are you?
10.
What's your name?
Louise.
Louise, you working hard?
Uh-huh.
Doesn't it get hot out here?
Yes, I'm gone.
It's hot on your head. How come you don't wear a hat?
Because I don't want to.
You have a hot head already. Let me see your feet. Here, let me see.
Strawberry stains.
Well, let me see it again.
Strawberry stains been on it.
Oh, boy, that's so hard. As I see it, there are two different issues involved in the question of how to stop the harvest of shame. The first is how to alleviate the misery and improve the living conditions of migrant workers in general. There are some things that can be done immediately, like the passage of a civilized agricultural child labor law and the extension of equal minimum wage protections to all agricultural workers. To help out the hard-pressed family farmers, perhaps the federal government can begin to subsidize the wages of the workers instead of subsidizing the big corporate farmers not to grow things. Health and education programs must be refunded instead of vetoed or cut back. There are other specific, lots of them, but when it gets right down to the bottom line, it's all going to depend on whether or not farm workers remain voiceless, and I'm talking about unions. The men who work dirt cheap must be given the same right to join a union as any other American worker. Which union? Only the workers can decide that through a fair and federally supervised election. Now, for California's grape and lettuce companies, that election should be held as soon as possible.